It started like a love story everyone envied. Afifa and Jabir were the perfect couple, at least that's what people believed. They had been together for 6 years, and in that time, their love had been tested by distance, family expectations, and financial struggles. But through it all, they stood by each other. Afifa was the kind of woman who believed in love, in patience, in the idea that when you truly love someone, you stood by them no matter what. And Jabir? He was a man with dreams. Big dreams. He wanted to be successful, to give Afifa the life she deserved. In the beginning, their relationship was full of laughter, late-night walks by the beach, and endless conversations about their future. Afifa loved how passionate Jabir was about his goals. He worked hard, always pushing himself to be better. She admired that about him, but admiration slowly turned into loneliness. Jabir's business started growing, and with growth came responsibilities. He was always on calls, always in meetings, always chasing the next big opportunity. At first, Afifa didn't complain. She understood. She waited. She believed that soon he would find balance, but time passed and nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. It started with little things. He would forget their dates and promise to make it up to her. He would come home late, exhausted, barely able to hold a conversation before falling asleep. Then he stopped noticing the small efforts she made, like the way she waited for him with dinner or how she sent him thoughtful messages throughout the day, just to remind him she was thinking of him. He would respond hours later with short, dry texts. She tried to understand, but understanding was becoming painful. One evening, she planned a special dinner. She cooked all his favorite dishes, set the table beautifully, even wore the dress he once said made her look like the most beautiful woman in the world. She waited and waited. Hours passed and Jabir didn't show up. His phone was busy every time she called. By the time he finally walked in, past midnight, Afifa was sitting at the table, staring at the untouched food. Her heart was heavy, but she forced a smile. "You're late," she said softly. Jabir sighed, rubbing his forehead. I know. Afifa, tonight was crazy. There was this last-minute deal, and I had to." "I understand," she cut him off. "You're busy." He sat down, finally noticing the effort she had made. His eyes softened. "You did all this for me?" She smiled, but there was pain in it. "Of course, but you're tired. Eat tomorrow." He leaned in to kiss her cheek, but she turned her head slightly. A small thing, barely noticeable. But for the first time, Jabir felt something was wrong. That night, Afifa lay awake, staring at the ceiling while Jabir snored beside her. Something inside her was breaking, something she couldn't put into words. She wasn't angry. Anger would have been easier. No, she was empty. And that emptiness scared her. The next morning, she made up her mind. She wouldn't beg for attention. If Jabir couldn't see her value on his own, maybe he never would. But what Afifa didn't know was that this was only the beginning. And by the time Jabir realized what was happening, it might be too late. Afifa changed. It wasn't sudden, not something loud or dramatic. But it was there, in the silence, in the way she no longer waited up for Jabir at night, in the way her eyes, once filled with warmth and understanding, now held a quiet distance. She stopped asking him when he'd be home. She stopped sending those sweet messages during the day. She stopped trying. And yet, Jabir didn't notice. His life was moving fast. Meetings, business trips, endless calls. He told himself that everything he was doing was for their future. He was building something great, something that would give them a life others could only dream of. But in chasing that future, he was blind to what was slipping away in the present. One evening, he came home earlier than usual, expecting to see Afifa in the kitchen or sitting on the couch waiting for him like before. But she wasn't there. The house was quiet, too quiet. He frowned, walking into the bedroom, only to find her seated on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered by his presence. "You're home early," she said without looking up. Jabir smiled, expecting her to be happy about it. "Yeah, I finished a little earlier today. Thought I'd surprise you." She hummed, nodding, but her reaction wasn't what he had expected. No excitement, no warmth, just indifference. Something in his chest tightened. "You didn't ask me how my day was," he said, half joking, trying to get her attention. Afifa finally looked at him, her eyes calm but unreadable. "I stopped asking because I already know the answer. Busy, productive, another big deal closed." Jabir laughed, but it felt forced. That's a good thing, isn't it? She held his gaze for a moment before standing up. I'm going to bed. She left him standing there, confused, a strange feeling creeping up his spine. Days passed, and the distance between them grew. Afifa no longer argued, no longer fought for his attention. And somehow that was more terrifying than if she had been angry. Anger meant she still cared. Silence meant something else entirely. One weekend, Jabir had no meetings, no deadlines pressing him. He decided to take Afifa out, just like they used to. Let's go for dinner, he said casually over breakfast. Afifa didn't even look up from her tea. I already have plans. Jabir frowned. With who? Myself, he chuckled. You're joking, right? She met his gaze. No, Jabir, I'm not joking. Something inside him twisted. When had they gotten here? When had Afifa started making plans without him? She had always waited for him, always adjusted her time to fit into his schedule. And now she was living her own life without waiting for him to catch up. That evening he stayed home, expecting her to return early, thinking she would change her mind and come back to him. But hours passed. Midnight came. Still she wasn't home. His chest tightened. Where was she? Who was she with? Why wasn't she answering his texts? When she finally walked in, her face glowing from the night air, he was sitting on the couch waiting. Where were you? His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Afifa placed her purse down, sighing. Out. With who? She turned to look at him, her expression unreadable. Does it matter? Jabir clenched his jaw. Of course it matters. You're my wife. She let out a soft laugh, but there was no humor in it. Now you remember? Something sharp stabbed through his chest. What's that supposed to mean? Afifa stepped closer, looking at him with those same eyes that used to be filled with love. Only now they were tired. It means I spent years waiting for you, Jabir. I made you my priority while I was just an option in your life. And now that I've stopped waiting, you suddenly care? His throat went dry. That's not fair. You know I've been working hard for us. No, Jabir, you've been working hard for yourself, she whispered. For the first time, he didn't have a response, because deep down, he knew she was right. But what scared him the most wasn't the argument. It was the way she spoke. Calm, detached, as if she had already made up her mind about something. And when she walked past him, heading to bed without another word, he had the horrible feeling that he was losing her. But the worst part? He wasn't sure if he could get her back. Jabir couldn't sleep that night. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Afifa's soft, steady breathing beside him. It should have been comforting, but it wasn't, because for the first time she felt like a stranger. Afifa had always been the woman who loved him unconditionally, the one who forgave, who waited, who understood. But now it felt like she had nothing left to give, and it scared him. The next morning, he woke up to the sound of movement. He turned to find the bed empty. Afifa was packing a small bag, his stomach twisted. Where are you going? She didn't even look at him. To visit my sister for a few days. Jabir sat up. Since when? You never mentioned this. I don't have to mention everything, Jabir. Her voice was calm, controlled, too controlled. He felt something in him snap. Afifa, what's going on? You've been acting different. You're pulling away from me. She finally turned to look at him, and what he saw in her eyes made his heart sink. There was no anger, no resentment, just exhaustion. I'm not pulling away, Jabir. I already did. His breath caught in his throat. What are you saying? She zipped up her bag, her fingers steady. I spent years trying to make this work. I fought for this relationship while you fought for success. And now that I've stopped fighting, you finally want to pay attention? Jabir stood up, running a hand through his hair. You're my wife, Afifa. I love you. You know that. She let out a small, bitter laugh. Do I? The weight of her words hit him like a punch. You used to love me, Jabir, but at some point, I became background noise in your life, something you ignored because you assumed I'd always be there. She shook her head. But people don't wait forever. Panic rose in his chest. So what? You're leaving me? She sighed. I don't know. That uncertainty cut deeper than if she had just said yes. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. And that hurt more than any argument, more than any fight. Please, Afifa, let's talk about this. I don't want to talk, Jabir. I've been talking for years, and you never listened. His mind raced. What was happening? How had they reached this point? Before he could say another word, she picked up her bag and walked out. And just like that, she was gone. Jabir sat in silence for hours. He kept staring at the door, waiting for her to walk back in. But she didn't. He tried to focus on work, but he couldn't. For the first time, his success didn't feel like an achievement. His empty house, the silence, the loneliness, none of it felt worth it. That evening, he called her. No answer. He texted. No reply. Days passed, and still nothing. Afifa wasn't just giving him space. She was disappearing from his life. Then one night, he saw something that shattered him completely. A friend had posted a picture on social media, a casual group photo at a restaurant, and there in the background was Afifa. She was laughing, her eyes shining in a way he hadn't seen in a long time, and sitting next to her was another man. Jabir's heart stopped. His hands clenched into fists. He zoomed in on the picture, his mind spinning. Was this why she had left? Was she moving on? He told himself not to jump to conclusions. Afifa wasn't the type to cheat, but the sight of her looking so happy without him made his stomach twist painfully. Without thinking, he grabbed his keys and drove to her sister's house. When Afifa opened the door and saw him, she didn't look surprised, just tired. "We need to talk," he said. She crossed her arms. "About what?" Jabir clenched his jaw. "I saw a picture of you with another man." Her expression didn't change. "And?" His chest tightened. "Is that why you left?" Afifa let out a small sigh. "Jabir, do you hear yourself? You ignored me for years and now suddenly you care? Not because you miss me, but because you think someone else might?" Jabir swallowed hard. "I do miss you." She studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke softly. "Then why did it take losing me for you to realize it?" His throat felt tight. He had no answer, because deep down he knew she was right, and he was terrified that this time he might have lost her forever. Jabir stood there, his chest tight, his heart pounding in his ears. Afifa's words echoed in his mind, slicing through him like a blade. "Why did it take losing me for you to realize it?" He had no answer. Afifa didn't move. She didn't invite him in. She didn't even look angry, and somehow that was worse. Anger meant she still felt something. But this quiet exhaustion in her eyes, it felt like she had already let him go. Jabir swallowed hard. "Afifa, I love you." Her expression didn't change. "Love isn't just words, Jabir." His hands clenched into fists. "I know, and I know I failed you, but I can fix this. We can fix this." She sighed. "I don't think you understand, Jabir. This isn't just about a few missed dinners or late nights at work. It's about years of feeling invisible. It's about me giving everything to this marriage while you gave your best to your career. I was building a future for us," he said desperately. She shook her head. "No. You were building a future for yourself, and I was just part of the background." Jabir felt his stomach twist. "That's not true." Afifa gave him a sad smile. "If it wasn't, we wouldn't be here right now." The weight of her words pressed down on him. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that he had always loved her, always cared. But deep down, he knew she was right. For years, he had taken her for granted. He had assumed she would always be there, that she would always wait, that she would always understand. But people get tired. People stop waiting. Jabir exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "So what now?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Afifa hesitated. "I don't know." Jabir looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, he saw the truth. She was done waiting for him to change. He took a deep breath. "Afifa, please, give me a chance to fix this." She studied him carefully. "How?" Jabir opened his mouth, but no words came, because he didn't know. He could buy her flowers, take her on trips, spend a week or two paying attention to her. But what happened after that? Would he slip back into his old ways? Would his work consume him again? Afifa saw the hesitation in his eyes and nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." Jabir's stomach dropped. "That's not fair." "No, Jabir. What wasn't fair was me spending years feeling like I was in this marriage alone," she said softly. The pain in her voice shattered him. Jabir exhaled sharply. "So, you're just gonna leave?" Afifa hesitated. "I think I already did." Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. He wanted to fight. He wanted to argue. But how do you fight for someone who has already walked away in her heart? He had spent years chasing money, chasing success, believing that love would wait for him. But love wasn't something you could put on hold. And now he was realizing it too late. Afifa took a deep breath. I don't hate you, Jabir. I just can't keep living like this. Jabir felt something in his chest crack. I love you, he whispered. Afifa gave him a small, sad smile. Maybe you do, but love isn't enough when one person is always alone in the relationship. She stepped back, slowly closing the door. Jabir stood there, frozen, as the door clicked shut in his face. And for the first time in his life, he realized that success meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. He had won in business, but he had lost in love, and the saddest part, it was all his fault.